Fun fact, in the early days of streaming, the days where Netflix was only $5 and Hulu was still free, I was an early cord cutter. Nowadays, it's trendy to ditch cable in exchange for a streaming service or two, but never forget who paved the way for you. Honestly, when I think about it, I was a trailblazer. I was the Lewis and Clark of discovering content only available in streaming services. When that corrections officer got Dasha Polanco's character pregnant in Orange is the New Black, I was there. I also don't blame him. Now, when Kevin Spacey's reputation was still intact during House of Cards, I was there. And when the Marvel movies and TV shows were still available on Netflix, I was there. But why did Marvel leave Netflix? Well, it's because their licensing deal with Netflix expired, and Disney, like every other major media conglomerate, decided they wanted their own streaming service. Thus, we have Disney Plus and things we never asked for, such as BET Plus, all begging us for $17 a month.
$17? Good Lord!
The latest original offering from Disney Plus is Ahsoka, the show starring Anakin Skywalker's Padawan, who walked away from the Jedi Order and became a Ronin. And yes, she's a Ronin. Thrawn literally calls her that in the show, so relax all you Star Wars neckbeards. The neckbeards will have you thinking you need to watch all 9,000 episodes of Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels to be prepared for this show, but I'm here to let you in on a secret. It's called YouTube summaries. Look them up if you want to know more about the character Ahsoka if you don't have time to watch all these shows. Only the chronically unemployed have time to watch all the Clone Wars and Rebels episodes. As for Ahsoka the show, I went into this with no expectations. I like her character, but Disney Plus has been a hit or miss when it comes to the original content. For every season 2 of The Mandalorian, you will get 2 Sneakerellas. Both Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett were disappointments, so I think it's fair that I went into this not expecting much. And with the conclusion of season 1 out of the way, I am happy to report back that I thoroughly enjoyed Ahsoka. The first 3 episodes are slow as it sets up the world, but if you stick with the show, episodes 4 to 8 are pure fire. The first thing I'd like to compliment is the presentation. You could tell Disney spent a pretty penny on the production of this show because, dare I say, there are moments where this show looks better than the recent trilogy of films. The sets for the various planets they frequent look great, the ships look good, and the makeup for the various aliens are awesome as well. There are some scenes towards the end of the show where you can tell they cut some corners, but for the most part, I'd argue Ahsoka raises the bar on special effects production on television shows. The next thing I like to praise is the writing. Being that this show is set around the same time as Cal Kestis when he was doing his thing, I couldn't help but wonder where they'd take this character and if it would muddy up the timeline even further. What they managed to pull off is nothing short of amazing. Without spoiling anything crazy, the basic plot is the galaxy is threatened by the Empire's return, and it all falls on them finding some magic key. This puts our hero and her team at odds with a group that includes a descendant of the Night Sisters and a couple of rogue Jedi that worked for her now lending their services as mercenaries. What makes Ahsoka a fun watch for me is it takes the time to flesh out the characters. One of my biggest issues with the recent movie trilogy is it relied too much on the spectacle of large space fights and lightsabers without establishing any type of human connection. And that's not to say there is no spectacle in Ahsoka. There definitely is, and it's done damn good. The point I'm trying to make is that this is just as much a person-to-person interaction here as well. This allows the characters to be fleshed out and you learn more about their strengths, weaknesses, and their motivations. Baylan Skoll is a prime example of this. When the trailers for this show first dropped, I rolled my eyes when he first appeared. I'm like, another rogue Jedi? Between this show, Star Wars Rebels, Cal Kestis' games, and the other forms of Star Wars media, as a fan, I can't help but feel like Order 66 really wasn't all that successful. It doesn't help that when Baylan first appears, it's revealed that he is one of many Jedi who abandoned the Order during the Clone Wars. I'm just like, how convenient. Knowing this means that Disney can keep introducing new Jedi characters with no real issues. I'm just sitting there watching it like,
You agreed to stay away! I lied.
With that being said, I am happy I gave Baylan Skoll a chance because despite this being Ahsoka's show, he might be my favorite character from the show. Once again, I will not spoil anything major, but the way Baylan is introduced versus the way the show ends is very interesting. He was set up to look like hired muscle, but by midway in the show, he reveals he has his own ambitions, and dare I say, he reminds me a bit of Thanos. He's a very interesting character because he's not a Sith. Despite his black clothing, he's not someone who succumbed to the dark side, but he's also not really a good guy. He's a character with depth. He means well, but he's fundamentally flawed. He's someone like Ahsoka that makes you question the concept of the Jedi Order and the Empire. Not to mention the actor who played him did his thing. He really revels in that stoic character, and Baylan was dropping fire quotes left and right. I'm just curious to know what Disney will do with this character. See, for those of you unaware, the actor who plays Baylan Skoll, Ray Stevenson, recently passed away in May of 2023. I'm not even sure if Disney showcased him an early cut of the show either, so there's a chance he didn't even get to see the final final product. So to him, I say rest in peace, and for whatever it's worth, I'm happy to say that at least you got to go out on top. As for the other characters, I wasn't a huge fan of Sabine at the start of the show. She was kind of a brat. By the end though, she did grow on me a little bit. Rosario Dawson did a great job as Ahsoka. She looks good in the makeup, and I thought she did a solid job playing the group elder. I believe episode 5 is one of the highlights of the show. It's a younger Ahsoka played by a different actor. This episode is mostly a giant flashback to her youth during the Clone Wars. Her and Hayden Christensen kill it. This episode damn near gave me goosebumps. I thought the director did an amazing job of capturing how horrible war is and giving Ahsoka her last lesson. At this point in the show, I'm just like, whoa, Disney might have something here. And the best part is that that's not the only thing that made me say whoa. The other thing was Admiral Thrawn. The man who plays him in live action is the same actor who plays Thrawn in Star Wars Rebels, and this dude kills it. He looks great in the makeup and the all-white fit, and he just carries that menacing, conniving energy very well. I've never really been a big fan of Palpatine. I was more of a Vader guy when it comes to villains, and I have to say that Admiral Thrawn might be coming in at a strong number 2 for Star Wars villains for me. What makes him so cool is that he has no real powers. He's a threat solely because he's a military genius with ambition. I love when characters are not overpowered and just well written. I cannot wait to see more of Thrawn. So if you can't tell by now, I loved Ahsoka. My only complaint is that I felt like the ending could have had more impact. It was okay, but it could have been better. Thrawn's already been confirmed to have his own movies coming, so making that a big selling point of the show doesn't work. I think they need to do something more with these characters to give them a more lasting impact. Also, I mentioned earlier the first 3 episodes were a bit slow, so between that and the okay ending, I'd say that, the show's like a solid 7.5, maybe an 8. It's good. It is good, but there is room to grow. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. There is nothing wrong with a grower over a shower. But hey, I'm just saying. Hey, you with the face, if you made it this far into the video, I'd like to thank you for watching. Please remember to hit the like button. And if you're new here, hey, I produce videos weekly sharing my hot takes on pop culture, so please consider subscribing for more. And if you like my thoughts on Ahsoka, maybe check out my video on the Gran Turismo movie. What? A movie about that racing video game on PlayStation? Yeah, I fully expected that one to be one of the worst movies that I've ever seen. And the crazy thing is, hear me out, it was the polar opposite. I know, hard to believe. It's a racing sim. Just click the card on the screen and you're gonna find out why you should check out the Gran Turismo movie.